Winterhaven sleeps beneath a soft blanket of snow, its rooftops dusted in white, the streets glowing with golden fairy lights. The air smells of pine and cinnamon, and the faint sound of carolers drifts from cozy homes. Above the quiet town, a single Christmas snowflake floats gently, spinning in the chilly breeze, catching every glimmer of light. It drifts past shop windows, past wreaths and snow-dusted lanterns, as if carrying a secret only the night knows. The snowflake dances above the empty streets, snow swirling around it like a delicate ballet. Where will it land? Whose hearts will it touch? Tonight, in this quiet, magical town, a story is about to unfold, a story of love rediscovered, of memories that refuse to fade, and of miracles that appear when you least expect them. Pay attention, because sometimes all it takes is a single moment, a gentle nudge of fate, to change everything. And that moment, just like this drifting ornament, might be closer than you think. Welcome to another original story by your one and only Maple. A Christmas Miracle, Love in the Snow. Chapter 1, The Wind Whispered Secrets, through the towering pines, as Lily Hartman guided her old sedan along the winding roads of Winterhaven. Snow lay thick over rooftops and fields, softening the edges of the world, muffling the familiar hum of the city she had left behind. Each turn pulled memories from the corners of her mind. Childhood laughter echoing down frosted streets, the warm, spicy scent of cinnamon drifting from the holiday market, and the twinkle of fairy lights strung along Main Street, casting golden halos on the snow. Lily hugged her coat closer, letting its worn fabric press warmth into her chest. The city had been relentless, loud, chaotic, and endlessly demanding. But here, the air tasted like frost and promise. For the first time in months, she inhaled freely, letting her shoulders drop, her chest lighten. Home felt like more than a place. It felt like possibility. The town square came into view, glowing with Christmas lights that shimmered on fresh snow. Children laughed as they rolled snow into perfect spheres, their mittens red from cold. Couples wandered hand in hand, scarves trailing behind like ribbons in the winter air. And there, leaning against the bakery's doorway, a tray of steaming pastries in his hands, was Noah Bennett. He looked different. Not in a way she could name, but in that quiet, grounding way that made her heart skip. Taller, stronger, the warmth she remembered in his eyes was still there, but now it carried depth, subtlety, a hint of longing she had never dared hope for. Their gazes met across the snowy square. Time slowed, the world faded, no words passed between them, only recognition, fragile and urgent, like the first snowfall of the season settling softly around them. A faint smile lifted the corner of his lips. A shiver ran through her, not from the cold, but from a feeling she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Chapter 2, First Encounter. Noah bent slightly, carefully setting the tray of warm pastries on the bakery counter, the steam curling upward like tiny ghostly ribbons in the winter light. Lily's boots crunched softly on the snow-dusted path as she approached, each step carrying a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Lily," he said, his voice low and warm, familiar yet somehow different, more measured, more aware, carrying the weight of months apart. It made her heart thrum in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. "Noah," she whispered, the sound barely audible, almost afraid it would shatter the delicate bubble that had formed around them. "You're back for Christmas," he observed, his eyes scanning her face as if memorizing every detail. The way her hair caught the light, the curve of her smile, the faint freckle she had always hated but he had always loved. "Winterhaven hasn't been the same without you." A small, bittersweet smile tugged at her lips. "I missed it, more than I realized," she admitted. For a moment, the hum of holiday chatter, the laughter of children, and the jingling bells around them faded into silence. It was as if time itself had paused, holding its breath for this reunion, allowing two hearts that had once intertwined to recognize each other again. Noah stepped closer, the warmth radiating from him, brushing against the chill of the winter air. He didn't reach for her hand, not yet, but the closeness, the almost touch, was electric. Every inch of the space between them seemed charged with memory and unspoken emotion. Then a bell chimed as the bakery door swung open, and the world intruded, a customer bustling in, breaking the fragile spell. But even as Lily turned to follow him inside, her heart stayed tethered to that fleeting, silent recognition. She knew, deep down, that something extraordinary had begun to awaken again, a story that had never truly ended. Chapter 3. The familiar creak of the front door greeted Lily like an old friend as she stepped into her childhood home. The scent of freshly baked cookies and pine wreaths wrapped around her like a warm blanket, chasing away the last remnants of city stress and winter chill. The crackle of the fireplace, the soft glow of lamplight on the wooden floors, even the faint ticking of the old clock, all whispered that she was home. "Lily, my dear!" Grandma Hazel exclaimed, arms opening wide. Her voice was rich with warmth and laughter, just as Lily remembered. Hazel's embrace was firm but gentle, full of that quiet strength only grandmothers seemed to carry. Grandma," Lily murmured, letting herself be held, the familiar scent of lavender and sugar filling her senses. Her eyes stung with sudden, unbidden tears, and she hid her face against Hazel's shoulder. "You look like you've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, child," Hazel said, her hands brushing away a stray lock of hair from Lily's face. She handed Lily a steaming cup of cocoa, the chocolate scent mingling with the piney warmth of the house. Winterhaven has a way of reminding people what truly matters. Lily took the cup, letting the heat seep into her fingers, her chest, her soul. "I don't know if I belong here anymore," she admitted quietly, her voice barely more than a whisper. Hazel's eyes softened, her hands resting over Lily's. "Belonging isn't about where you are, my dear. It's about who you open your heart to. Sometimes you have to leave a place to understand that home isn't a building or a street. It's where the heart feels safe enough to grow." She smiled knowingly. "Maybe this Christmas will remind you." Lily sipped her cocoa slowly, letting hope stir in her chest. Perhaps this Christmas wasn't just a visit. Perhaps it was the beginning of something she had long forgotten she could feel. Warmth, belonging, love. Chapter 4. The sun had barely kissed the rooftops when Lily stepped into the heart of Winterhaven's Christmas market. Snowflakes clung to her coat, melting slowly against the warmth of her scarf. Every breath she drew felt crisp and alive, carrying hints of pine, cinnamon, and the soft sweetness of sugar-dusted pastries. The town seemed to glow from within, fairy lights twinkling across the stalls like fireflies caught in a web of magic. She wandered slowly, letting her fingers brush over the rows of handcrafted ornaments, feeling the grooves and smoothness of tiny wooden snowflakes, delicate glass baubles, and intricately painted figurines. A hand-carved snowflake caught her attention. It reminded her of a gift she had once received, a small secret Noah had given her when they were children. Her fingers lingered on it, tracing the carved edges, and she felt warmth spread through her chest as memories danced. Snowball fights, laughter echoing down icy streets, and his shy grin when no one else was looking. A bell jingled, drawing her eyes toward the center of the market. There, with the sun catching the highlights in his hair, was Noah. He moved through the stalls with ease, greeting neighbors and old friends, but the moment their eyes met, the world shrank around them. The scent of pine and sugar swirled between them, and for an instant, Lily could hear nothing but the quickened rhythm of her own heart. She took a slow, deliberate step forward, feeling the snow crunch under her boots. The air felt heavier, charged, as though the universe had conspired to hold this moment just for them. Noah's smile widened slightly, but there was a softness there, a hesitation, an unspoken question. She remembered the winter of their first snow fort, the warm hands, the secret notes left in pockets, the tiny glances that spoke of everything neither dared say aloud. And now, standing in the market, surrounded by laughter and lights, she realized those feelings had never truly gone away. They were waiting, like embers beneath winter snow, ready to ignite. By the time Lily returned home, the market's magic lingered in her hair, in the scent of roasted chestnuts still clinging to her coat. She moved with careful reverence toward the attic, where a forgotten box awaited her, a box that had sat untouched for years, a vessel of frozen moments and unspoken truths. She opened it slowly, the lid creaking like a sigh of anticipation. Photographs spilled onto the wooden floor, snow forts collapsing under their laughter. Snapshots of friends mid-giggle, letters bound in ribbon. Each page faded but alive with memory. Her fingers traced each image, each curve of handwriting, each frozen smile. Then her heart caught. There, amid the chaos of memories, was a photograph she had almost forgotten. A single sunlit moment of her and Noah. Arms around each other, snow cascading gently behind them, cheeks flushed from laughter, eyes locked in a shared secret. The world in the photo was theirs alone. She sank to the floor, letting the image settle against her chest. "How did I let all this slip away?" she whispered, voice breaking, almost afraid her own words might shatter the delicate spell of the memory. Tears welled, blurring the edges of the photographs. But amidst the ache, there was hope. Perhaps this Christmas the story wasn't over. Perhaps the embers she had felt at the market weren't just nostalgia, they were a spark. And perhaps the spark was meant to grow into something more, something enduring, something worth chasing through the snow and lights of Winterhaven. Chapter 6. The town square buzzed with an energy that seemed almost tangible. The aroma of roasting chestnuts mingled with hot cocoa, laughter carried over the wind, and music from a nearby carousel floated through the crisp air. Lily and Noah moved in a dance of shared memory and playful mischief as they strung lights across the square, their hands occasionally brushing, sending a jolt of warmth through her every time. "Careful with that garland," Noah teased, watching her climb the ladder with mock concern. "Last time you nearly wrapped yourself around the lamppost." "I like to make things dramatic," Lily shot back, cheeks flushed with both cold and delight. The ladder wobbled slightly, and Noah's hand shot out instinctively, steadying her. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat the lights, the music, and the crowd disappeared. It was just them. The laughter they had shared, the snow that had dusted their childhood, and the silent understanding that nothing had truly ended. They continued working side by side, but the air between them thrummed with anticipation. Each accidental touch, each shared glance, each burst of laughter carried unspoken words. It was in those moments, the brush of fingers across strings of lights, the warmth of proximity, the quiet glances, that Lily felt something she hadn't dared feel in years: possibility. By the time they stepped back to admire their work, the square sparkled like a galaxy trapped in snow. Every light reflected in Noah's eyes, and Lily realized she hadn't noticed the beauty of the town like this in years. Not really. Night fell over Winterhaven like a soft velvet curtain, quieting the world with its familiar winter hush. The frozen lake stretched out before them, smooth as polished glass, catching the full reflection of the moon. It didn't just mirror the sky, it amplified it, as if the heavens had lowered themselves to meet the earth. Lily inhaled the cold air, letting it sting her lungs the way only winter could. The lake had always been her sanctuary. Even in childhood, she'd raced across this ice like she belonged to it, like her heartbeat had learned its rhythm from the steady glide of her skates. Beside her, Noah shifted his weight, holding out a pair of skates with a lopsided grin stitched across his face. His breath came out in soft, visible clouds, and the sparkle in his eyes held something mischievous, something that tugged at a part of her she'd carefully tucked away for years. "You never taught me to skate," he said, voice low, almost swallowed by the quietness of the night. Lily raised a brow as she reached for the skates. "I never needed lessons," she replied, smirking. He chuckled, shaking his head. "That doesn't even make sense, Lil. It makes sense in my world. Your world is chaos." "Exactly." He laughed again, the sound warm enough to melt the ice beneath them. She ignored the way her chest fluttered, the way her stomach tightened, the way her eyes lingered on his longer than she intended. They laced up their skates near the edge of the dock, shoulders brushing occasionally. Every accidental touch felt like a secret shared, too soft, too charged, too meaningful. Noah tested his balance first, wobbling slightly. "Okay," he announced, hands out like a tightrope walker. Be prepared to catch me if I die. You're not dying, Lily said. I might, not on my watch. He shot her a grin. So you do care if I die? Please. I just don't want the paperwork. Ouch. They stepped onto the ice together. The first few minutes were filled with cautious glides, trivial jokes, soft laughter. Noah clung to stability like a newborn deer, while Lily moved with natural ease. Their silhouettes stretched long across the frozen lake, twin shadows sliding gracefully beneath the moon. You're actually getting the hang of it, Lily said, nudging him lightly. I'm a natural talent, he said breathlessly. Absolutely born for this. His legs wobbled violently. Completely. He straightened, chin raised as if offended by gravity. I'll have you know I'm... He slipped, arms flailed. Lily snorted. Still learning, he corrected with dignity. You're hopeless. That's harsh encouragement. That's honesty. Noah glided closer, bumping her shoulder playfully. Lily tried to tell herself that her heart didn't react, that her breath didn't catch, that the warmth blooming in her cheeks was just the cold. It wasn't. She knew it. He probably knew it too. After a few laps, confidence surged through her. Maybe too much. Noah slowed behind her, calling out, Hey, Lily, wait! But she was already speeding ahead, wind curling through her hair, skates slicing across the ice in smooth arcs. She felt weightless, free, like the girl she once was. Then her skate caught, just a tiny misalignment, barely noticeable, but enough. Lily pitched forward. Time stuttered, and she tumbled, arms flailing, body turning, breath hitching, before landing flat on her back. Snow puffed around her like an explosion of glitter, scattering across her hair, her gloves, her eyelashes. Her world spun in slow, dizzy circles. Lily! Noah's voice cracked through the quiet. She blinked up at the moon, dazed but alive. Within seconds, Noah slid awkwardly but urgently toward her, dropping to his knees so hard he nearly fell again. His hands found her shoulders, warm even through the layers of her coat. You okay? He asked, breathless, worried, too close, far too close. His face hovered inches from hers, his expression open in a way he rarely let it be. His thumbs brushed over her sleeves unconsciously, grounding her, steadying her. Yeah, she whispered, but the rapid thundering of her pulse betrayed her. It wasn't the fall. It was him. It was always him. The way his breath mingled with hers in the cold air, the peppermint scent on his jacket, the flicker of Christmas lights from the town casting soft gold over his cheekbones, the quiet warmth in his eyes that held winters of stories she still didn't know, and summers of memories she still wanted to learn. You scared me, he said softly. She blinked. I fell, not died. Still scared me. His voice was barely a whisper now. It sank into her bones. Noah helped her sit up, his hands never leaving her arms, his eyes never leaving her face. Their breath rose in twin clouds. Their knees touched. Their gloves brushed. And for one suspended moment, Lily wondered if the universe had always been nudging them toward this night. Finally she whispered, You can let go now. He didn't, at least not immediately. Then, slowly, reluctantly, his hands loosened, but his eyes didn't. Come on, he said gently. Let's get you on your feet. She nodded, letting him pull her up. They wobbled together, laughing softly as they regained balance. The laughter felt like something unthawing, something neither of them had dared to feel in too long. They skated again, slower now, side by side, hands brushing again and again, just enough to send sparks through both of them. Neither pulled away. Above them, the stars scattered like diamonds across a velvet sky. Below them, the ice reflected every twinkle, doubling the magic. The world felt quiet, like it had paused just for them. Lily's heart felt strangely full, terrified and hopeful and alive all at once. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't thinking about everything she'd lost. She wasn't thinking about her fears or her walls. She was thinking about Noah, his quiet persistence, his warmth, his steady presence, his laughter. And something inside her whispered that maybe, maybe. She was finally ready, ready to feel, ready to trust, ready to live, maybe even ready to love again. Chapter 8. Evening descended over Winterhaven like a silken cloak, soft and shimmering. The last rays of sunlight curled behind the pine trees, leaving behind a deep blue twilight that bathed the snow in gentle silver. The bakery windows glowed like lanterns in the dusk, casting warm rectangles of honey-gold light onto the snow-draped street. Inside, chimneys puffed sweet, warm air into the cold outside, a promise of comfort to anyone who passed by. Lily stepped into the bakery first, brushing snowflakes from her scarf. The bell above the door chimed, and the familiar scent of vanilla, cinnamon, and rising dough enveloped her. Noah was already inside, sleeves rolled, apron tied, hair slightly tousled, like he'd been waiting for her, without actually saying it. "You ready?" he asked, brandishing a wooden spoon like a sword. "For baking," she replied, lifting a brow, "or battling?" "Both," he grinned, eyes gleaming with mischief. They were supposed to be preparing pastries for the Winterhaven festival. Gingerbread stars, frosted berry pockets, cinnamon snowflake cookies. But the moment Lily tied her apron and dusted her hands with flour, something shifted, a spark, a teasing energy, an invitation neither had spoken aloud. The first accident happened innocently enough. Lily reached across Noah for a bag of sugar, misjudging the distance. Noah turned at the same moment, bumping into her. The sugar puffed into the air like a tiny explosion, covering the front of his shirt. He blinked. She gasped. And then Noah flicked a playful pinch of flour straight at her cheek. Lily froze, slowly touched her face, narrowed her eyes. "You didn't," she whispered. "Oh," Noah teased, "I definitely did." Her retaliation was immediate and devastating. She scooped a full handful of flour and blew it in his direction like a snowstorm. It burst around him in a glorious white cloud, coating his hair, eyebrows, and even the tip of his nose. "Lily!" he sputtered, laughing, brushing flour from his eyelashes. The battle escalated instantly. Noah lunged, she dodged. They circled each other around the mixing table like two mischievous children at war. Flour flew in bursts, floating through the air like snow shaken loose from pine branches. Lily shrieked, running behind the counter. Noah reached over the top to sprinkle flour on her hair. She spun around and dusted him back. Within minutes they were both white from head to toe, ghostly, ridiculous, and breathless with laughter. "You're going to ruin the cookies!" Noah exclaimed, ducking a handful of sugar she attempted to throw at him. "I think the cookies need a little chaos," she insisted, her grin wide and unguarded. "You are the chaos," he laughed. "Thank you," she replied with mock pride. Lily darted behind him and tapped his shoulder. When he turned, she smeared a soft streak of flour across his cheek. His expression froze in dramatic betrayal. "Oh, it's like that?" he murmured. "Exactly like that." He stepped closer. She stepped back, right into a sack of flour. It puffed up around her in a cloud. She coughed through laughter, waving the air. Noah doubled over laughing. She shoved him lightly, but he caught her wrist, gently, his fingers warm against her skin. The playful energy softened instantly, shifting into something more delicate. "Easy," he murmured, voice low. Their eyes locked through a floating haze of flour dust and golden light. That one touch, warm, steady, lingering, sent a quiet ripple through Lily's chest. She felt it unfolding inside her, spreading warmth from her fingertips to her heartbeat. Hands collided again as they reached for the same mixing bowl. Her breath caught. His eyes flickered down to their touching fingers, and for once, he didn't pull away. His thumb brushed hers softly, intentionally. Silence settled around them, not empty but full of everything they hadn't said yet. The bakery smelled sweeter than before, vanilla, cinnamon, caramelizing sugar, and something like hope. The overhead lights cast soft halos around them, making Noah's eyes glow, warm and amber. Slowly, Noah let out a breath, his voice shifting to a deeper, gentler tone. "You know," he said, "I've missed this." She swallowed. "Missed baking?" He shook his head. "Missed you." Her heart squeezed as if trying to fit too much emotion into too little space. She opened her mouth to answer but found nothing came. What could she say? That she'd missed him every year she'd been gone? That she'd replayed memories of this bakery every lonely night in the city? That she'd tried to convince herself those feelings didn't matter? He lifted a flour-dusted hand and brushed a strand of hair from her face, slowly, tenderly. "You disappear into that city hurricane," he murmured. "And sometimes I wonder if you remember any of this. Any of us." "I do," she whispered. "More than you know. Something like relief, like warmth, like longing flickered across his features." Outside, snow drifted from the night sky, catching the glow of the bakery windows like falling stars. The world felt quiet, smaller, as if Winterhaven itself had wrapped around them, holding them still. Noah's hand slid down from her hair to her jaw, hesitating for half a second as if giving her a chance to object. She didn't, couldn't. Her breath trembled when his thumb brushed lightly against her cheek. "You look happy," he murmured. "Funny," she said softly. "I was just thinking the same thing about you." For a moment, the world was only the two of them, standing inches apart, covered in flour, surrounded by warmth, sweetness, and a spark that neither could pretend they didn't feel. The ovens hummed behind them. A timer beeped faintly. Snow drifted past the windows like delicate confetti, and Lily realized that for the first time in a long time, she wasn't trying to escape her emotions. She was falling into them, into him, into everything this place had meant to her. Noah's voice was barely above a whisper. "Tonight, this feels right." She nodded, breathless. "Yeah," she whispered. "It really does." Chapter 9. The bakery was warm in a way only Winterhaven could make warmth feel. Soft, golden, almost alive. The ovens hummed gently in the background, radiating heat that wrapped around Lily like the familiar embrace of an old memory. The air was thick with the scent of rising dough, cinnamon, melting sugar, and something bright and citrusy. Noah's signature holiday orange glaze. Lily stood beside Noah at the long wooden work table, sleeves rolled past her elbows, apron tied slightly crooked. Her hands pressed rhythmically into the dough. Push, fold, turn, finding a steady pulse that grounded her. She hadn't baked like this in years, yet her body remembered, like muscle memory stored in her bones. Noah worked beside her, silent for a while, completely focused. His hands moved with effortless precision, strong but gentle, guiding the dough with a craftsman's devotion. Every so often he brushed a stray smear of flour off the counter with the side of his wrist. Every so often he glanced at Lily, quick, unreadable looks that lingered a heartbeat too long. Finally Lily exhaled, the breath leaving her chest heavier than she expected. "City life," she said, kneading slowly. "It's exhausting." Her voice wavered, just slightly, like something fragile beneath the surface had cracked. Noah paused, not dramatically, but in a way that said he heard not just her words. He heard everything she hadn't said yet. His hands rested on the dough. He shifted to face her more fully, though he pretended he wasn't doing so. "What do you mean?" he asked, voice low, warm, coaxing. "I thought I could handle anything," she said, pressing her palms deeper into the dough, "but I miss this. I miss the simplicity, the warmth, the smells of home." Her throat tightened. Saying it aloud made it real. Too real, like suddenly opening a door she had kept locked for too long. Noah's brows softened, the tension in his shoulders easing. He didn't rush to fill the silence. He simply waited, giving her space to breathe. "I miss who I was before," she whispered. He didn't speak right away. Instead, he reached for the bowl of flour, his hand brushing hers. Not hard, not accidental, but not fully intentional either. A soft grazing touch that sent a small spark skittering up her arm. It wasn't electricity, it was recognition. He let their hands rest together for half a second before withdrawing slowly, almost reluctantly. "I get it," Noah murmured, voice quieter now. "I stayed here because, well, I didn't think I could leave. I worked the bakery after my dad got sick. Then after he passed, it just became my whole world." He kneaded absent-mindedly, barely looking at the dough. His eyes drifted toward the frosted window. And sometimes I wonder if I've stayed too long, he confessed. Lily's hands stopped moving. She studied him, really looked at him, the way the sunlight outlined his profile, the slight weariness under his eyes, the quiet strength in the way he carried his burdens without complaint. "Noah," she said softly, "I didn't know you felt like that." He huffed a soft laugh, one without much humor. "That's the thing about Winterhaven," he said. "Everyone assumes we're just content, stuck in time, happy with it." His voice dipped lower, earnest and vulnerable. "But I'm human, too. I've had dreams. I've lost some." He met her gaze again, and something in his expression shifted, opened. "But when I see you," he said quietly, the words threading into the warm air like something fragile and true, "I realize some things are worth holding on to." He took a breath, chest rising slowly. "Some people are worth holding on to." Lily felt the breath leave her lungs entirely. Worth holding on to. The words lodged somewhere in her ribcage, aching and beautiful. She swallowed, her hands now resting still and flour dusty on the table. She wanted to say something, anything, but her voice refused to come. So instead, she lifted her eyes to his. There was no hesitation there, no doubt, just depth, honesty, the quiet echo of something she had tried so hard not to feel again. "Noah," she began, but her voice failed. She tried again. I didn't know you saw me like that." He laughed softly. "How could I not?" He stepped closer, not too close, but enough that she could feel his warmth. "You walk into a room and it feels like winter decides to take a break." She blinked, surprised, flustered. "That's definitely not true." "It is," he said gently. "You bring life with you. You always have." His words wrapped around her like the warmth from the oven. Gentle but impossible to ignore. Lily looked down at her hands, covered in flour, trembling slightly. "I always felt like I had to choose," she confessed. "Ambition or heart. The future or the past. I thought loving anything meant losing myself." "And now?" he asked. She lifted her head again, eyes glistening slightly, not with tears but with clarity. "Now," she whispered, "for the first time, I think I can imagine both. A life where love and home don't fight each other. A life that feels like this." Noah's breath hitched, not dramatically but enough that she noticed. He stepped closer slowly, like approaching something delicate. The morning light caught the flower on his shirt. Outside, faint Christmas music drifted in from a passing car. Something warm and golden settled over them, like the world itself understood the moment. "Lily," Noah said softly, "you don't have to choose alone." Their eyes met, steady, vulnerable, hopeful. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then, a tray of rising dough popped loudly in the oven behind them, making them both jump. They burst into laughter, tension melting instantly. Lily covered her face with flour-dusted hands. "We're ridiculous." "Maybe," Noah said, smiling wide, "but at least we're ridiculous together." He reached out and brushed a streak of flour across her cheek. She gasped in mock outrage and smacked his arm with a puff of flour. He retaliated with a gentle tap on her nose. Soon they were both laughing, breathless, surrounded by drifting flour like falling snow. The bakery felt alive. Warmer, brighter, full. And as Lily looked at Noah, closer than before, smiling like she was the reason the sun rose, she realized something, for the first time in years. She wasn't running from anything. She was running toward something, toward him, toward home, toward a future that didn't ask her to choose what part of her heart deserved to live. The ovens hummed. The sunlight glowed, the scent of cinnamon and possibility wrapped around them. And as Noah reached for her hand, not by accident this time, she didn't pull away. She let him hold it, warm, sure, steady. Chapter 10. The moment they stepped outside, the door of the bakery closed behind them with a soft thud, muffling the warm laughter and lingering scent of cinnamon that clung to the air inside. Winterhaven's night wrapped around them like a cool, velvety cloak. Snow fell in a slow, mesmerizing dance, each flake drifting down like a small miracle. The street was washed in soft white. the lamplights turning every falling snowflake into a tiny star. The town square glowed in the distance, its decorations twinkling like constellations suspended between earth and sky. The silence was not empty, it felt alive, filled with breath, heartbeat, and possibility. Lily inhaled deeply, letting the cold air rush into her lungs, the kind of air that made memories feel sharp and present. Her voice slipped out like a confession carried on the snow. "I've missed this," she whispered. "Missed us, I guess." The words surprised even her. They came out raw, unpolished, honest, like truth rarely is. Noah paused mid-step. His profile was illuminated by the golden glow of a lamppost, snow collecting on his hair and shoulders like a delicate crown. Slowly, instinctively, as though his hand had been waiting all these years, his fingers found hers. He didn't grab, he didn't force, he simply held, warm, steady, gentle. "Me too," he murmured, his voice soft but full, every word carrying unspoken winters of longing. "I've wondered if you'd ever come back." Lily felt the words ripple through her. She squeezed his hand subtly, grounding herself in the warmth of his skin against the cold night. They stood there for a few seconds, not moving, just breathing the same icy air, sharing a quiet neither of them tried to fill. Snowflakes gathered on their eyelashes. One landed on Noah's cheek and melted instantly, leaving a glistening trail like a tear not yet shed. The silence around them wasn't empty. It felt thick, meaningful, like Winterhaven itself was listening. The soft crunch of snow under their boots echoed with every shift of weight, magnifying their presence in the stillness. A distant giggle from a child pulling a sled floated faintly across the square, adding warmth to the cold. The world felt slower here, kinder, simpler. Lily's breath came out in a visible puff, mingling with Noah's. Their closeness blurred everything else. The shimmering lights, the snow-frosted rooftops, the distant music spilling from a decorated porch. Everything faded except the warmth where their hands met. They began walking again, but slowly, deliberately, as if each step needed to be savored. Snowflakes drifted down, brushing against their cheeks like whispers of the wind. Lily felt each one land and melt, a reminder that she was here, in this moment, not running from it. The town seemed to hum around them, a gentle lullaby of soft lights and familiar shadows. The wreaths hanging on doors, the garlands draped over shop windows, the frozen icicles glowing like crystal pendants, all of Winterhaven looked like a postcard brought to life. "This town hasn't changed much," Lily said finally, her voice quiet but full of something tender. "But it feels different now. Or maybe I do." Noah looked at her, his gaze steady. "You left to find something," he said gently. "Doesn't mean you can't come home." She took a slightly shaky breath. "I was afraid that if I came back I'd feel like a stranger." "Do you?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "No, I feel," she searched for a word. "Home, safe, seen, whole. I feel like I can breathe. Again." Noah smiled, small and warm, the kind of smile that felt like a hand brushing your cheek. Snowflakes landed in Lily's hair, catching the lamplight like tiny diamonds. Noah glanced at her, something tender crossing his features. It made her pulse quicken, not with fear but recognition. That spark she'd been feeling all day in the bakery, at the market, on the ice, it wasn't imagined. It wasn't nostalgia. It was alive. It pulsed between them now, in the quiet and the cold, in the spaces where words couldn't carry what the heart was screaming. They reached the small bridge that crossed Winterhaven Creek, now frozen and glittering under the moon. The water beneath was still, silent, holding the sky's reflection like a secret. Lily leaned lightly against the railing, her fingers still intertwined with Noah's. She studied his profile, the set of his jaw, the softness in his eyes, the way he let the moment exist without trying to mold it. "It's strange," she said softly. "I spent so long trying to convince myself the city was where I belonged, that ambition, noise, and always moving forward meant success." "And now?" Noah asked, turning to face her fully. "Now," she whispered, "I'm remembering what it feels like to just be, to feel something other than pressure." "Winterhaven does that," Noah said with a hint of a smile. It slows you down, makes you notice things, like snowflakes landing on your eyelashes, she teased gently. He nodded. Or how your hand fits in mine, he added quietly. Lily's breath hitched. She didn't look away. Couldn't, because that warmth in his voice. It was the kind you only hear when someone is speaking truth. The snow grew thicker around them, falling in soft curtains of white, cocooning them from the rest of the world. The bridge, the town, the night, everything felt suspended in time. Lily felt her heartbeat sinking with the rhythm of the snowfall, with the pulse of Winterhaven, with the warmth of Noah beside her. It wasn't just memory anymore. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was something living, growing, becoming. Noah brushed his thumb gently over the back of her hand. Sometimes, he whispered, love doesn't disappear. It just waits. Lily's eyes softened, her voice low and trembling, and sometimes, coming back feels like waking up. Snowflakes drifted between them like soft, glowing embers. Their breaths mingled again, visible in the cold, shaping the same space. And in that quiet snowfall, Lily understood something she had forgotten, something she had buried beneath years of noise and ambition. Some love, some warmth, some home, waits quietly, patiently for you to return. And she had finally returned. Chapter 11. The quiet between them was soft, sacred, and settling in her chest like warm honey, until a sudden vibration jolted through her coat pocket. Lily flinched. The gentle hum of her phone felt almost violent against the night's calm, shattering the delicate magic they'd been wrapped in. Snow still drifted downward in lazy spirals, landing on her hair, her scarf, the collar of Noah's coat. The world was peaceful, but her heartbeat wasn't. She pulled the phone out slowly. The screen lit her face with a cool blue glow, and Noah watched the shift in her expression, how her eyes widened for a half second, how her breath hitched, how the corners of her mouth fell just slightly before she masked it. Rachel, of course. The message read, Lily, big client opportunity. Are you free for a meeting tomorrow? This could be huge. Her stomach tightened, the warmth she had felt a moment ago draining like water through her fingers. Noah saw it all. He didn't say anything immediately. He just watched her, quietly, patiently, the way he had always watched her. Snow landed on his lashes, melting into tiny droplets. His breath fogged the air between them like a faint curtain. Lily swallowed hard. For a moment, she considered slipping the phone away, pretending she hadn't seen it. Pretending the world outside Winterhaven didn't exist. Pretending that ambition didn't call her name with sharp, demanding claws. But she couldn't lie, not to herself, not to him, not tonight. Noah's voice broke through the silence before she had a chance to speak. Lily? His tone was gentle, almost resigned. You're thinking of leaving again. It wasn't an accusation, it wasn't anger, it was understanding, and somehow that hurt worse. She looked away, staring down the quiet street where the lampposts glowed gold and warm, haloed by falling snow. Children's laughter still echoed faintly from a distance. Families returning home from the festival, couples huddled under shared scarves, old friends waving from porches dusted in white. Winterhaven was alive. Winterhaven felt like a heartbeat. Her heartbeat. I don't know, she whispered, hating how fragile she sounded. I thought I had everything figured out in the city. I built a life there. Plans, dreams, a future I worked for. She exhaled shakily. I shouldn't throw that away. And this? Noah asked softly. Is this something to throw away? The words weren't sharp. They weren't meant to hurt. But they hit her with a force she could feel in her bones. She turned to him. His dark hair was dusted with snow. His cheeks were flushed from the cold. His eyes, those warm, steady, unwavering eyes, watched her as though every breath she took mattered to him, as though her choices could either save him or break him. It's not that simple, she whispered. Maybe it is, he said. Sometimes what we want and what we need aren't the same. She pressed her lips together, her heartbeat thudding in painful, uncertain rhythm. Noah, you know how hard I worked. All those late nights, all those projects, All the times I said no to fun or rest or anything that didn't push me forward." Her voice cracked slightly. "I thought if I could just succeed there, everything would finally make sense." "And now?" he asked gently. She glanced down at her phone, still glowing in her hand. Messages, meetings, deadlines, a future built on momentum. She locked the screen and let her hand fall. "Now everything feels different." "How?" he asked quietly. She inhaled, the cold burning her lungs. "Because every time I look at this town," she said, motioning weakly to the quiet, sparkling street, "I feel something I didn't expect, something I didn't even know I needed." His gaze softened. "And when you look at me?" Her breath caught. The world felt very still. She didn't answer right away. Her throat was tight, too tight, but the truth filled her chest until it ached. "I feel home," she whispered. Something flickered in Noah's eyes. Hope, fear, longing, heartbreak, all tangled together. He stepped closer, not touching her yet, just bridging the inches of cold air between them. "Lily," he murmured, "you don't owe me anything. Not your choices. Not your future. You don't even owe me a promise." He hesitated. "But I can't pretend it doesn't matter. I can't pretend I don't want you to stay." The honesty in his voice was a blade wrapped in silk. Lily felt tears prick hot behind her eyes. "I'm scared," she confessed. "Scared of choosing wrong. Scared of losing the life I built. Scared of hurting you. Scared of hurting myself." He reached for her hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their fingers intertwined, fitting together with a familiarity that made her chest ache. His hand was warm, grounding, steady. "You know," he murmured, brushing his thumb over her knuckles. "When you left the first time, I told myself that someday I'd understand, that you belonged to the world, not to this small town, and that I should be proud of you." She swallowed tightly. "But," he continued, "I hoped that one day you'd look back and realize that the world doesn't always give you what matters. Sometimes, what matters is waiting quietly, hoping you'll return." The snow kept falling, soft, silent, forgiving. Lily felt herself tremble, not from the cold, but from the truth settling deep inside her. "Noah," she breathed, voice cracking with the weight of everything unspoken. He stepped closer, just enough so she felt the heat radiating from him, warming her cheeks, her chest, her very core. "You don't have to decide tonight," he whispered. "You don't have to decide tomorrow. Just don't run from what's real. Not again." She blinked, a tear slipping down and disappearing warm against his thumb as he brushed her cheek. "And this is real?" she whispered. His answer was immediate. "It's the realest thing I've ever felt." They stood there, surrounded by falling snow and warm lights and the quiet pulse of a town that had always been a part of her, even when she tried to forget it. Lily pressed her forehead lightly against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath the layers of fabric and warmth. "I don't want to hurt you," she whispered. "You won't," he said. "Not if you follow your heart." Another vibration buzzed in her pocket. Rachel again, probably. She didn't reach for it. Not this time. For now, she let herself breathe, let herself feel, let herself exist in the space where ambition and love collided in the quiet glow of a snow-covered street. Noah's arms came around her slowly, carefully, as though she were the most breakable thing he had ever held. And she realized, maybe for the first time, that the decision ahead of her wasn't about choosing between the city or the town, ambition or love. It was about choosing herself and who she wanted to be. The snow fell heavier now, blanketing the street in white, coating the rooftops, softening the world into something gentle and new. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she let the moment hold her. Chapter 12. Morning arrived quietly, in Winterhaven, slipping through frost-touched windows and pale gold ribbons. The town outside was peaceful, soft mounds of snow on rooftops, icicles glinting like glass blades, chimneys exhaling ribbons of smoke into the crisp sky. Winterhaven looked untouched, serene. But Lily felt none of it. Inside her chest, something was unraveling. She sat on the edge of her bed, fingers tugging absently at a loose thread in her sweater. She inhaled deeply, trying to steady her thoughts, but last night's image replayed relentlessly. Noah, laughing, leaning close to another festival organizer, a woman she didn't know well, whose red scarf had fluttered in the wind, as she touched Noah's arm and whispered something that made him smile. The woman's laughter had been soft, warm. His had been even softer. It shouldn't have bothered Lily, not after all the honesty between them, not after the way she had felt in his arms the night before. But jealousy wasn't always reasonable. It was instinct, a knot tightening silently in the shadows of the heart. He's hiding something, Lily whispered to herself now, her voice barely audible. The thought chilled her even more than the icy morning. Hiding something, it repeated in her mind like the slow drip of melting snow from a rooftop, persistent, intrusive. She didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to be the type of person who let doubt creep in so easily. But ever since the message from Rachel last night, ever since her own mind had been pushed into uncertainty, everything felt fragile, breakable. She stood, wrapping her arms around her ribcage as if holding herself together, and moved downstairs. The small inn smelled of cinnamon, vanilla, and cocoa, comforting scents that usually soothed her. Not today. At the breakfast table, Mrs. Greenwood had set out fresh cinnamon rolls still steaming from the oven, their glaze gleaming like melted snow. The cocoa was rich, warm, topped with whipped cream and a dusting of nutmeg. Lily stared down at her cup. It should have made her feel cozy, safe, grounded. Instead, her stomach twisted. Noah arrived moments later, brushing snow from his shoulders as he stepped inside. His cheeks were flushed from the cold, his smile warm, too warm for someone who had spent the night leaving shadows on her heart. "Morning," he greeted, giving her a soft, familiar grin. She forced one back. "Morning." But it wasn't the same, and he felt it instantly. Noah's brows pulled together, his steps faltering just a little as he took the seat across from her. "You okay?" "You look tired." "I'm fine," she replied too quickly. He tilted his head, studying her. "You sure? You seem—" "I said I'm fine." The sharpness surprised, even her. Mrs. Greenwood glanced over from the kitchen, eyebrows lifting, but wisely said nothing. Noah nodded slowly. "Okay." His voice was gentle, careful. "If you want to talk—" "I don't," she said, softer now but still distant. He nodded again, but Lily felt the warmth drain from his expression. A hesitation grew in his eyes, like a door slowly closing. The rest of breakfast passed quietly, painfully. Noah laughed at a small joke Mrs. Greenwood made, but Lily couldn't shake the thought. He wasn't laughing like that with me this morning. He was laughing like that with her yesterday. She hated the thought, hated the insecurity clawing at her, hated how easily she'd become terrified of losing something she hadn't even fully regained. But fear didn't ask permission. It simply settled in, heavy and stubborn. Later that afternoon, Winterhaven's festival square buzzed with life again. Children raced between snow sculptures, leaving little boot prints behind. Vendors poured hot cider, wrapped gifts, and sold hand-woven mittens. Strings of lights swayed gently overhead, glowing softly against the winter sky. But for Lily the world felt muted, like she was seeing everything through fogged glass. Noah was helping set up lanterns along the main walkway. The other organizer, the same woman from yesterday, stood beside him again, handing him ribbons and markers as they worked. Lily froze. The woman laughed at something he said. He laughed too. A sharp sting burst in her chest. She swallowed hard and walked toward them, footsteps crunching the snow in slow, heavy beats. Noah saw her first. His eyes brightened, then dimmed subtly when he noticed the tightness in her face. He wiped his hands on his gloves and stepped toward her. "Hey," he greeted softly. "I was hoping you'd come by. We could use a few extra hands." She offered a small smile, brittle at the edges. "You seemed busy." His brows furrowed. "Just helping Clara with the lanterns." Clara, a name to the shadow that haunted her morning. Clara turned and flashed Lily a friendly smile. He's been rescuing me from the tangled ribbons all afternoon. I swear I have two left hands when it comes to crafts." Her tone was light, harmless. Lily couldn't even blame her. But jealousy doesn't care who deserves blame. "I didn't want to interrupt," Lily murmured. "You weren't interrupting," Noah said gently. "Never." Silence fell between them, too heavy, too sharp, too obvious. Clara, sensing tension, excused herself politely. Now they stood alone in the snow-softened square, the distance between them suddenly full of unspoken things. Finally, Noah exhaled. "Lily, what's going on?" She shook her head, forcing a weak laugh. "Nothing, just tired." "No," he said quietly. "It's not nothing. You've been distant since breakfast." He paused. "Since last night, actually." Her heart clenched. "I saw you talking to her," Lily whispered before she could stop herself. "You were laughing. You looked close." Realization dawned on his face. "Lily," he said softly, taking a small step closer, "Clara is married. Her husband is literally right behind the cocoa stand half the day." He gave a tiny, warm smile. "We were talking about lantern designs. The only secret I'm hiding is that I'm bad at tying bows." Heat rushed to Lily's cheeks. "Oh." He chuckled softly, but his expression remained tender, gentle. "Oh," he echoed. "Yeah." She looked down, embarrassed, and still aching, because the fear hadn't been about Clara at all. Noah lowered his voice. "Talk to me, please." "I'm scared," she whispered. "Everything between us feels so fragile, and I don't know how to handle it. You matter to me, maybe too much, and the city, and Rachel, and all the choices I haven't made yet." Her breath trembled. "I'm terrified of losing any of it." Noah took her hands in his gloves warm against her frozen fingers. "Lily," he murmured, "love isn't fragile because it's weak. It's fragile because it's precious. You're scared of losing me." He squeezed her hands gently. "I'm scared too." Her eyes lifted to his. "But misunderstanding won't break us," he said softly. "Silence might, fear might, but not honesty." He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Don't pull away from me. Not over shadows." The tension in her chest cracked, like ice thawing under sunlight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He smiled, soft, relieved, and warm. "Just talk to me. That's all I ever want." She nodded, tears prickling her eyes. Noah stepped closer, the heat of his presence melting away the cold inside her. "Lily," he murmured, voice barely above the snowy hush around them. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time that day, she believed him. The snow continued to fall gently around them, but the cold between them finally broke, replaced with warmth, understanding, and the quiet promise of something stronger than fear. Something worth fighting for. Chapter 13. Nightfall descended swiftly over Winterhaven, swallowing the last traces of daylight beneath a thick curtain of gray. The air had shifted at dusk, heavy, pregnant with warning, and by the time the lanterns along Main Street flickered on, the first wild flurries began. Within minutes the storm hit. A blizzard swept through the town with a ferocity Winterhaven hadn't felt in years. Snow churned like ocean waves caught in a storm, swirling in frantic spirals that blurred the world into white chaos. The wind howled, slamming itself against the windows so hard the bakery's old panes trembled in their frames. Lily and Noah hadn't planned to stay at the bakery after closing, but the moment the storm's full force roared in, the streets vanished behind walls of snow. Wind, white, nothing else. They were trapped. And in an odd, quiet corner of Lily's heart, she didn't mind. Inside the bakery, the world softened. The glow from the candles Noah had found cast warm halos that shimmered across countertops dusted in flour. Shadows danced on the walls, flickering like memories. The scent of vanilla, butter, and cooling pastries lingered in the air, comforting, familiar, safe. The blizzard outside roared like a creature trying to claw its way in. But here, inside their cocoon of candlelight and warmth, time slowed. Noah closed the last shutter and exhaled, brushing snow from his shoulders. "It's coming down harder than expected," he murmured. Lily hugged her elbows. "It sounds like the whole sky is falling. It might as well be." He offered a faint smile. No way we're making it home tonight. She nodded quietly, heart thudding. Not from fear, from him, from them, from the way he seemed so close in the firelight. They settled onto the wooden bench near the small stone hearth at the back of the bakery. Noah fed the fire until the flames grew steady and warm, crackling softly. Their shoulders brushed, just barely, but the contact sent a ripple of heat along Lily's skin that the fire alone couldn't explain. She inhaled slowly, gathering courage. The misunderstanding from earlier still hung between them, fragile but undeniable. She had apologized. He had reassured her. Yet both were afraid to touch the subject again, afraid of reopening wounds that were still tender. But the storm left no room for distance. I didn't mean, Noah began, voice low, careful, for anything to seem off. Lily turned her gaze toward him. Candlelight softened his features, casting warmth across his cheekbones, highlighting the worry lingering in his eyes. I didn't realize I was giving you any impression at all. He rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous gesture she remembered from childhood. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I know, she swallowed. I know that now. He glanced at her. You were hurting. I was scared, she corrected gently. Of losing me? His voice was soft but direct. She looked down at her hands, fingers lacing and unlacing as if they held the truth she couldn't speak aloud. Of losing something before I fully understood what it meant to have it. He breathed out slowly. The fire crackled, the wind screamed against the window, snow thudded like fists on the rooftop. Noah shifted closer, so close their knees touched. The warmth from him seeped into her chilled skin, grounding her, warming her, unraveling her defenses. You don't have to be afraid of me, he whispered. She gave a breathless laugh, soft, trembling. That might be the problem. I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of feeling too much. He tilted his head. Lily, you're allowed to feel too much. You always have been. Not in the city, she murmured. You're not in the city now. That truth hung between them like a suspended breath. Outside, the storm roared even louder, like the world wanted to shut out every distraction so their hearts had no choice but to listen to each other. A burst of wind rattled the shutters so violently Lily flinched. Noah reacted instantly, his hand reaching instinctively for hers. His fingers closed around hers with warm firmness, not letting go. You're safe, he murmured. The words weren't dramatic, they were simple, and they were everything. She relaxed, letting her shoulder rest against his. Their breaths mingled, their bodies slowly sinking into the same rhythm as the fire. After a minute, she whispered, I'm sorry for assuming things. I didn't. No, he interrupted gently. Don't apologize for caring. She looked up at him. He held her gaze unwavering. Your feelings aren't something to be ashamed of, Lily. You felt something because you care. Because we matter. Her heart somersaulted. We do, she breathed. We really do. He exhaled like her words released something heavy inside him. Silence draped over them again, but this time it wasn't suffocating. It was soft, warm, binding. The fire flickered lower but glowed brighter in reflection of the connection slowly knitting itself back together. The storm became background music, a wild, rhythmic symphony. Snowflakes slapped against the glass with relentless intensity, yet in their cocoon, peace blossomed. Every brush of their knees, every accidental touch, every glance stolen when the other looked away. It all layered, building something that felt fragile and inevitable at once. Noah reached for a blanket folded at the end of the bench and draped it over both of them. The gesture was simple, yet intimate in a way that made Lily's breath falter. Better? He asked softly. She nodded, her voice small. Yeah. Minutes stretched, long and slow, filled with the softness of rising emotion. Lily could feel him watching her. Just a little, just enough that she sensed the unsaid words swirling behind his silence like the snow outside. Finally she whispered, Do you ever wonder how we ended up here? In a bakery? He teased. In a blizzard, she clarified, eyes glimmering. He thought for a moment, then answered quietly, Maybe we were meant to be trapped together. Her breath caught. he continued, voice dropping. Maybe we weren't supposed to walk away again. Not this time. She didn't speak. She couldn't. The firelight shimmered in Noah's eyes, making them seem warmer, deeper, more open than she'd ever seen. Then he added, voice barely above a whisper, maybe the storm came because we needed it. Her heart ached in the sweetest, sharpest way. Needed what? This. His hand brushed hers again. The world slowing down, the chance to just be honest. She swallowed hard. And what's the honest part? She whispered. That I'm not over you, he said simply. Rawly, truthfully. And I don't want to be. The blizzard outside wailed, but inside the bakery everything stilled, like the world held its breath for her response. Lily leaned closer, her forehead almost touching his. I'm not over you either, she whispered. Their breath mingled in the warm air, soft as a promise, fragile as new snow. They didn't kiss, not yet, but the space between them closed until the only thing keeping their lips apart was intention. It was slow, it was warm, it was intense. It was everything the storm was not. Chapter 14. Hours had slipped by unnoticed, measured only by the soft crackling of the fire and the gentle hiss of melting snow as it slid from the bakery roof. What had begun as a violent blizzard had quieted into a slow, drifting snowfall, as if the sky itself were finally exhaling. The world outside the frosted windows was calm now, hushed, forgiving, wrapped in white serenity. Inside, the air still held the faint warmth of cinnamon and rising dough, comforting scents that had clung to this bakery long before the storm and long before their hearts had tangled themselves into something too heavy to ignore. Lily and Noah remained on the wooden bench near the fire, their shoulders no longer brushing by accident but resting together, leaning ever so slightly. Neither had spoken in a while, but the silence had changed. It was no longer thick with tension, it was waiting, holding its breath, ready. Finally Noah shifted, just enough for Lily to notice. He stared at their hands, close but not touching now, hovering between them like a question. His voice broke the quiet. I've always wondered if you'd ever truly come back. He didn't look at her when he said it. He looked at the fire instead, as if the flames might soften the truth of his words. The way his jaw tensed betrayed how long he had held that sentence inside him. Months, maybe years, tucked beneath unspoken hope and unspoken disappointment. Lily's breath caught, a soft sound, barely audible even in the hush of the bakery, but it made Noah's eyes flick toward her. She looked down at her lap, her fingers twisting together before she stilled them against her knees. I didn't know I could, she whispered. I thought leaving was the only way to become who I needed to be. I thought the city had answers I couldn't find here. Every dream I had. It felt like it needed distance, noise, crowds, something bigger than this town. Noah watched her closely now, not interrupting, not even blinking too fast, just taking in every word. Lily swallowed, her voice trembling as she continued. But being here, she exhaled shakily. Being with you, it feels like I'm finally home. She felt her eyes sting, hot with tears she didn't want to cry. Not tonight. Not when she was finally saying the things she had never allowed herself to admit. Noah's breath hitched. The sound was small but raw. A moment stretched between them, aching, gentle, full. His hand moved first, slowly, cautiously, as if afraid she might pull away. Their fingers brushed. Lily didn't flinch. Instead, her hand opened softly, welcoming his, and their fingers intertwined, naturally like a habit they had never forgotten. The warmth of his touch spread through her, grounding her in a way the city never had. The fire popped, sending a flicker of light across their joined hands as though marking the moment. I don't want to let this go again, Noah said quietly. Each word seemed pulled straight from his chest, bare and trembling. I don't want to lose what we could be. Not anymore. She lifted her gaze to him, eyes glossy with emotion. Their faces were so close she could count the freckles across his nose, the way the firelight shimmered in his eyes. Noah. He took a breath, slow, steadying. I've missed you, he admitted, voice cracking at the edges. More than I knew I could. The honesty of it hit her harder than the storm ever could have. She didn't speak right away. She turned slightly toward him, their knees brushing, and rested her forehead against his. The contact was soft, warm, intimate. She closed her eyes. So did he. Their joined hands rested between them, held tight. For the first time in months, maybe longer, Lily lowered every wall around her heart. All the fear of failing, all the fear of wanting too much, all the fear of coming home only to leave again. She let it slip away. Melt like snow by the fire. "I've missed you too," she breathed. More than I let myself say out loud. Outside, snowflakes floated slowly downward. Gentle, peaceful, as though the storm itself was giving them permission to start again. The bakery windows glowed with soft candlelight, and shadows danced across the shelves, turning the entire room into a cocoon of warmth. The firelight brushed their cheeks, painting their closeness in gold, highlighting every hesitation, every hope. Noah shifted just enough that his nose brushed hers. A small touch, barely there, but her heart stumbled. The world outside was silent. Inside, everything felt, finally, right. He whispered, "Lily," like her name alone was a confession. Her breath ghosted against his lips. She didn't pull back. She didn't overthink. She didn't run. Not this time. The tension between them tightened, warm and sweet and dangerous. But instead of kissing her, though he clearly wanted to, Noah held still, waiting, giving her space to decide. Lily opened her eyes. The decision showed in her small, trembling smile. And that moment, soft, incomplete, suspended, held more power than any kiss could have. The fire crackled, the candles flickered, snow fell. Inside the bakery, the storm was finally over. Chapter 15. The frozen lake stretched out before them, silent and breathtaking, like a sheet of polished glass carved into the heart of Winterhaven. The pale morning sun hung low on the horizon, its light soft and diffused, painting the world in muted shades of gold and silver. Frost gathered along the lake's edges, forming delicate lace-like patterns that shimmered as if the ice itself wore a gown of crystals. Every snowflake drifting from the sky seemed to fall in slow motion, twisting, twirling, glowing faintly as it passed through beams of winter light. Lily watched them, feeling as though time had slowed just for this moment, just so she could breathe it all in. She inhaled deeply, letting the crisp winter air fill her lungs. It tasted clean, almost sweet, mingling with the scents she had known since childhood: pine, wood smoke curling from distant chimneys, the faint earthy musk of the frozen forest, and the subtle sweetness of melting snow. A scent that felt like memory. Beside her, Noah walked quietly, his breath forming soft white clouds in the frigid air. His presence radiated warmth even through the thick layers of winter clothing. His arm brushed hers occasionally, innocent touches that felt anything but. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was full, comfortable, charged with unspoken things neither was ready to say out loud yet. Snow crunched under their boots in a slow, steady rhythm. After a while, Noah broke the silence, his voice gentle, softened by nostalgia. "Do you remember when we built that snow fort here?" Lily's laughter came instantly, warm as sunlight, bright against the cold. It rang out across the empty lake, scattering into the still air like a trail of echoes. "How could I forget?" she said, shaking her head. "You kept piling snow on your side like you were trying to start a war." He nudged her. "It was a snow war, and you were terrible at building walls." Her smile widened. "Only because you stole half my snow." Noah lifted a brow, feigning innocence. "Strategic resource redistribution." She rolled her eyes, but she couldn't help the warmth blooming in her chest. A moment passed before his voice softened again, quieter, more vulnerable. "I didn't crush it, though. Not on purpose." Lily looked up at him, remembering. He hadn't. At the time, she thought he might. He'd run toward the little fort, laughing like a maniac, snowball in hand, and then he'd stopped inches from it, frozen in place, as if crossing that little wall meant losing something important. Noah reached out, brushing a loose lock of hair away from her face. His glove grazed her cheek for barely a second, but the touch seared through her like warmth after a long, cold night. "I wanted us to stay kids forever," he said quietly. "To stay in that laughter, in that snow, in that moment." Her breath caught. There was something painfully honest in the way he said it, something longing, something almost mournful, as if part of him still lived in that childhood winter. Lily swallowed gently, feeling her chest tighten with emotion. "I did too," she whispered. "Back then, everything was simple. You, me, this place. The winters felt endless, like magic." They paused at the lake's edge, staring out over the glistening ice. A soft breeze drifted across its surface, carrying tiny sparkles of frost into the air. Lily wrapped her arms around herself. But the cold wasn't what made her shiver. Noah moved closer, not touching yet, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. He always did that, stood just near enough to remind her he was there. They began walking again, their footsteps leaving two parallel tracks in the untouched snow. Memories layered themselves over the world around them. The snow fort, the snowball fight that followed. Noah slipping on the ice and pretending it was intentional. Lily laughing until her stomach ached. Him helping warm her hands afterward, holding them between his like something fragile. Those were the memories she had carried away with her when she left Winterhaven. Quiet shadows she didn't allow herself to revisit until now. "You always ran faster than me," Noah said suddenly, nudging her with his elbow. She scoffed. "Only because you let me win," he grinned. "Maybe. But don't tell anyone." She bumped him back with her shoulder, and he chuckled, the sound echoing softly across the frozen lake. Every now and then their fingertips brushed, just fleeting touches, like the lake itself kept shifting the ground beneath them, guiding them closer. Each brief contact sent a pulse of warmth through Lily's cold hands, and each time, Noah pretended he didn't notice. She pretended she believed him. They walked toward the far side of the lake where the forest dipped low, trees bending under the weight of fresh snow. The branches glittered as the sunlight caught the frost, transforming the world into something out of a storybook. Snow drifted down in lazy spirals, settling on their hair, their coats, their eyelashes. "This place hasn't changed," Lily murmured. Noah hummed in agreement. "Not much, just us." She glanced at him. "Do you think we changed too much?" He didn't answer immediately. He bent down, scooping up a handful of powdery snow, letting it sift through his fingers. The wind scattered it, carrying little twirls of white into the air. Finally, he said softly, "No, I think we grew up, and maybe that's okay." Lily's heartbeat thudded gently, steady and warm. Noah straightened and met her gaze, his breath misting between them. "I think we're supposed to see this place differently now. Not just as kids running around without thinking, but as people who've lived, lost things, missed things." His eyes softened, found things again. Lily felt her throat tighten. She looked away quickly, blinking against a sudden swell of emotion. They continued walking, slower now, as if neither wanted to reach the end of the lake too soon. The world was quiet except for the whisper of snow under their boots and the gentle sigh of winter wind brushing past the trees. "For me," Lily whispered, her voice fragile, "this lake was always more than just frozen water." Noah turned his head, listening. She inhaled, the cold air stinging her lungs. "It's where we grew up, where I laughed the most, where I felt the most me." Her words hung in the cold air. Noah stepped closer, their arms brushing again, this time lingering. "It's where I noticed you for the first time," he said quietly. "Really noticed. Not as the girl who threw snowballs at me, but as the person I didn't want to stop seeing." Lily froze. Her boots sank slightly into the snow, the world around them, icy branches, drifting snowflakes, the golden sunlight, blurred at the edges. Her pulse thudded deep and warm in her chest. Noah took another step, closing the remaining space between them. His breath mingled with hers in soft clouds. But he didn't touch her. Not yet. He just looked at her. Really looked, like she was something precious. The quiet stretched, full of tension, full of yearning. Lily swallowed hard, voice trembling. "Noah," he smiled gently, almost sadly. "Don't worry, I'm not saying anything we're not ready for. A beat, just remembering." She exhaled shakily. They continued walking again side by side, but now the air between them thrummed with a new warmth. Old memories glowing like embers, new ones forming with every step. The frozen lake glimmered behind them. The snow-covered world shimmered with quiet magic. And for the first time in years, Lily felt something rebuilding inside her. Slowly, carefully, beautifully. A belief, a possibility, a hope. Yes, she thought. Maybe magic did exist, if she finally let herself stop running from it. Chapter 16. Night fell like a velvet curtain over Winterhaven, and the town glowed as though it had been dipped in gold. Twinkling lights strung from every lamppost, roofline, and storefront sparkled like captured starlight, casting long playful reflections on the freshly fallen snow. The town square hummed with life, a gentle rhythm of music, laughter, and whispered joy that seemed to hold the world in suspended delight. The scent of pine mingled with warm mulled cider, roasted chestnuts, and the sweet perfume of cinnamon and sugar wrapping around Lily and Noah like a fragrant, invisible blanket. Hand in hand, they walked slowly through the soft, thick snow, their steps leaving prints that would soon be smoothed over by the drifting flurries. Their breaths mingled in the icy air, forming ephemeral clouds that swirled upward, dissolving like smoke into the night. Each exhale felt intimate, a private communion between them amid the vibrant celebration of the town. Noah's hand squeezed hers, warm and reassuring against the chill, his fingers brushing lightly over her knuckles. "Everything feels perfect tonight," Lily whispered, her voice trembling slightly, not from cold but from the weight of the moment. She looked up at him, the glow of the lanterns catching the gold flecks in his eyes, making him seem almost unreal, like a character who had stepped out of a storybook into her life. He brushed a wisp of snow from her hair, his touch feather-light but leaving a trail of warmth that settled deep into her chest. "It does," he replied softly, his voice low and steady. Almost like magic. And in that moment she believed him. The town itself seemed to pause, holding its breath in celebration. Every laugh, every note of a carol, every faint jingle of bells was a testament to a night created for this precise feeling. The quiet wonder of being present, of being alive, and of standing beside someone who mattered in the most elemental, undeniable way. They wandered past stalls brimming with handcrafted ornaments, each glittering like frost captured in glass. Lily reached out to touch a delicate snowflake, its edges sparkling with tiny flecks of light. She felt the pulse of anticipation in her chest, the mingling of nostalgia, excitement, and the unspoken electricity between her and Noah. Each glance they exchanged carried the weight of everything they hadn't said, of all the moments lost to time and distance, and of the ones they were about to share. "Do you remember last year?" Noah murmured, his tone low, almost conspiratorial, as they passed a stall selling miniature wooden sleds. "We ended up here, laughing at how much snow there was, and you tried to convince me to race you down that hill by the bakery." Lily laughed softly, the sound mingling with the wind and music around them. "I almost lost my scarf in that race, and you—" She paused, her eyes glimmering. "You were ridiculously competitive." Noah chuckled, his breath fogging in the cold air. "I take my victories seriously," he teased, but there was a softness in his gaze, a warmth that made her pulse quicken. "But I wouldn't trade that day for anything. Just like I wouldn't trade this night for anything." Her chest swelled at his words. She wanted to speak, to tell him how much she had missed him, how the city, the ambition, and the noise could never fill the emptiness that Winterhaven, and he, had always carried in her heart. But words felt fragile against the vast magic of the moment. Instead, she leaned into his side, their hands remaining intertwined, the silence between them thick with unspoken confession and tender anticipation. A soft flurry began, delicate snowflakes drifting down and settling in her hair. She tilted her face toward the sky, catching a few on her eyelashes, and Noah laughed softly, shaking his head. "You're like a snow princess," he said, voice gentle, almost awed, "and He stopped, searching her eyes. "I'm right here. Always right here." Her heart tightened, a rush of warmth flooding her chest as she turned to face him fully. They stopped near a lantern that cast a golden halo over the snow at their feet, the town's bustling celebration fading into a soft background hum. Noah's hand cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing lightly across her skin. "You make everything feel right," he said, his voice trembling just slightly, as though even he couldn't believe he was saying it aloud. Lily felt a surge of emotion she couldn't contain. Her fingers rested lightly against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the pulse that mirrored her own. "I think I've been waiting for this," she whispered, voice barely audible, more than I even realized. He smiled, a slow, breathtaking curve that made her breath hitch. "Then let's not waste another second," he murmured, leaning just slightly closer. Their faces hovered inches apart, the snow drifting down like confetti, the warm glow of the lanterns casting gentle light across their features, illuminating every curve, every line, every unspoken word. They continued to walk slowly through the square, lingering at each stall, laughing softly at trinkets, sharing memories of winters past, and stealing moments of private connection amid the public celebration. Every shared smile, every brushing of fingers, every glance carried weight, love layered with familiarity, hope, and the quiet recognition that some magic doesn't exist in lights or snow or music alone. It exists in hearts that have found their way back to each other. By the time they returned to the central fountain, the snow falling thicker now, swirling in gentle eddies around their feet, Lily realized she had never felt more alive. Each sound, the laughter of children, the distant strains of a carol, the soft clink of hot chocolate mugs, seemed to harmonize with the rhythm of her own heartbeat. She looked up at Noah, and in the soft, glowing light, she saw not just a reflection of herself, but a mirror of all she had been missing, and all she could still hope to become. "Tonight," she said softly, her breath mingling with the cold air, "everything feels magical." Noah smiled, brushing snow from her shoulders. Not the lights, not the music, not even the snow. He leaned close, voice low and intimate. "You. This. Us." And for the first time that evening, Lily felt fully, completely, undeniably home. The town may have glittered around them, the carols may have sung, and the snow may have continued to fall in delicate swirls. But the true magic of Christmas Eve lay here, in the quiet gravity of their connection, the slow, unspoken dance of hearts rediscovered, and the warmth of love finally allowed to flourish. But she still couldn't let go of the thug in her heart. Could she really let her city life go? It was at this moment she made a wish. More like a silent prayer. May the Christmas spirit lead the way. Chapter 17. The evening air was crisp, carrying with it the delicate scent of pine and snow, tinged with the faint sweetness of roasting chestnuts from the nearby festival stalls. Lanterns hung overhead, their golden light casting gentle halos on the snow-covered cobblestones, illuminating the corners of Winterhaven in a soft, dreamlike glow. The town square, bustling moments ago with laughter and music, had quieted near the far end, as though sensing that something intimate was about to unfold. Noah led Lily by the hand through the dimly lit streets, their steps crunching softly in the fresh snow. Every so often, a flake settled on her coat or in her hair, melting instantly against the warmth radiating from her body. Her pulse quickened by more than just the cold. He guided her with an easy confidence, a gentle strength that spoke of years of friendship, trust, and unspoken desire. Finally, they arrived at a small, secluded corner of the square, slightly hidden behind a row of lantern-lit stalls. There, a modest evergreen tree stood, its needles dusted with snow, the branches twinkling with tiny lights that reflected like captured stars. But it wasn't the lights alone that made Lily stop. Every ornament was a fragment of their shared history. Miniature snowflakes glimmered, each a frozen echo of snowball fights that had left them laughing breathless. A tiny wooden bakery sat at a branch, reminding her of flour-dusted evenings spent kneading dough and stealing glances. a miniature snow fort perched delicately, a frozen memory of icy hands and secret laughter by the lake. Even the small hand-carved ornament, the first gift Noah had given her years ago, hung gently among the others, familiar yet carrying a new resonance now. Lily's eyes widened, tears prickling as memories she had tucked away surfaced with astonishing clarity. Her breath caught in her throat, and she pressed a gloved hand to her chest. Feeling the weight of nostalgia and the sudden, sharp sweetness of love realized, Noah stepped closer, his own breath misting in the cold, brushing against her arm in a touch that was more than accidental. His voice, quiet and almost hesitant, broke the spell. "I wanted to remind you," he said, his words trembling slightly, "of everything we've shared, and everything I hope we still will." Lily looked up at him, her gaze locking with his, searching for some clue, some hidden meaning. Instead, she found only honesty and a vulnerability that mirrored her own feelings. Her lips parted, ready to speak, but the words dissolved into the snow-laden air. Instead, she felt the full impact of the gesture, the thoughtfulness, the care, the painstaking effort that had gone into this tree, and her heart swelled with an almost unbearable tenderness. The snow drifted lazily around them, settling on lashes and shoulders, but it seemed to do nothing to chill the heat of her chest. Each ornament, each tiny hand-carved memory, was a promise woven into reality, a testament to a bond that had endured time, distance, and unspoken fears. Noah gently took her hands in his, holding them as though they were the rarest treasures in the world. Lily could feel the warmth of him through her gloves, the faint tremor in his fingers betraying the same vulnerability she felt. "I can't imagine another Christmas without you," he murmured, his voice low, almost reverent. "Will you stay here with me?" The words hung in the cold night, carrying the gravity of hope, longing, and the possibility of everything they had yet to experience. Lily's chest tightened as emotions collided within her. Gratitude, nostalgia, desire, and an undeniable sense of belonging. Her heart thumped loudly, echoing in her ears, yet in that moment she felt steady, anchored in the certainty of him and the place they shared. She glanced at the tree again, the miniature snowflakes sparkling like fragments of captured light, the little bakery and snow fort carrying the weight of laughter and memories, the ornaments almost humming with magic. Then she looked up at Noah, and all hesitation melted away. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling, carrying the warmth of 1,000 unspoken words. "I'll stay." A smile broke across his face, hesitant at first, then broadening into pure joy. He pulled her gently into a warm embrace, holding her close as the snow continued to fall softly around them. Around them, the festival lights glimmered faintly in the distance, music floating on the wind, but in their corner of the square, time seemed to pause. For a long while they simply stood there, foreheads touching, breaths mingling, hands entwined. Words felt unnecessary. The tree, the snow, the gentle magic of Winterhaven, and their shared memories spoke louder than language ever could. Finally, Noah tilted his head, brushing a kiss across her temple, soft and reverent, a seal on the promise hanging between them. Lily's eyes glistened, and she leaned into him, letting herself be present, letting herself belong. The world continued around them, the quiet hum of the festival, the distant laughter, the soft jingling of bells. But here, in this luminous corner, they had built their own universe, one of memory's magic, and a love rekindled so slowly, so deliberately, that it burned brighter than any Christmas light. And in that moment, under the softly falling snow and the glow of fairy lights, Lily understood fully that some gifts, some moments, weren't wrapped in paper or ribbon. Some miracles arrived quietly, in gestures, in memories, in hearts willing to wait in love beyond the chaos of the world. She rested her head against his shoulder, feeling the warmth radiate through her, a comfort that felt infinite. Noah's hand pressed gently to the small of her back, steadying her, grounding her in a place that now felt like the truest home she'd ever known. Outside, the snow swirled lazily, settling over Winterhaven like a soft promise. And inside that small corner of the square, surrounded by magic, memory, and love, two hearts found their Christmas miracle. Chapter 18. The world seemed to hold its breath. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the air, each one a delicate prism catching the amber glow of the lanterns and the twinkle of Christmas lights strung across the square. Around them the town thrummed with muted celebration. Carolers' soft voices, the distant laughter of children, the scent of roasting chestnuts and spiced cider. But, in that moment, it all felt distant, like a backdrop to a private universe that belonged solely to Lily and Noah. Noah's hands enclosed hers, warm and grounding, his fingers intertwined with hers as naturally as if they had been made for each other. His gaze held her, deep and unwavering, speaking decades of longing, regret, hope, and love that words could never capture. "I can't wait any longer," he whispered, his voice low, almost swallowed by the soft hum of snow drifting around them. There was a tremor in his tone, fragile and urgent, that made her chest tighten in a delicious, overwhelming ache. Her heart leapt at his words. She took a tentative step closer, closing the sliver of space between them, feeling the radiance of his warmth seep into her own. The peppermint-scented scarf he had tossed around his neck brushed gently against her cheek, sending a shiver of delight down her spine. She could feel the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath his hand, a pulse that matched her own racing rhythm. Their breaths mingled in the cold night air, curling upward in fragile clouds, momentarily merging like their emotions, soft, light, and suspended in time. Noah tilted his head slightly, a silent invitation in his gaze, and she answered with her own quiet courage. And then, under the glow of a nearby lantern, amidst drifting snow that caught and scattered the light like tiny diamonds, they kissed. At first it was tentative, a gentle pressing of lips, testing boundaries that had been months in the making. But the hesitancy melted, as their hearts synchronized, years of longing, unspoken dreams, and suppressed desire pouring into the kiss. It deepened, becoming urgent, passionate, and impossibly tender all at once. Every nerve, every fiber of their beings seemed to ignite with the connection, a merging of two lives that had always belonged together but had been separated by circumstance, distance, and fear. The world around them blurred. Snow, lights, music, laughter. It all became a sparkling haze, softened and distant, as though the town itself was holding its breath, honoring this perfect, fleeting, eternal moment. Lily felt the warmth radiating from him, felt the pulse of life and love that seemed to hum between them like a private symphony. A faint, reluctant chime suddenly broke the spell, Lily's phone vibrating insistently in her coat pocket. She pulled away slightly, blinking at the screen, heart still racing from the kiss. The caller ID glowed with a name she didn't expect, a coworker from the city. Lily hesitated, a flicker of conflict crossing her face. Noah noticed immediately, his brow furrowing in concern. "Is everything okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but laced with curiosity. Taking a deep breath, she answered, "Hello?" The voice on the other end was brisk, urgent, almost panicked. "Lily, you need to come in. Something's happened. It's big, and I mean huge. I didn't know who else to call." Lily's eyes widened. Her free hand flew to her mouth in shock. "What? Wait, I don't understand. What do you mean?" Noah stepped closer, concern sharpening in his gaze. "What is it?" he asked, his voice taut with tension, his hands still holding hers tightly, as though anchoring her against the sudden surge of fear. She hesitated, her mind reeling. It's about the project we've been working on, something with the client. I can't believe it." Her voice faltered, trembling in disbelief, awe, and the thrill of the unexpected. Noah's eyes darkened with concern, and he gripped her shoulders lightly. "Lily, you have to tell me. Whatever it is, we'll face it. Together. What's happened?" Her breath hitched. It's huge. They want me to lead the team. In the city, immediately. They're offering more than I ever imagined. I don't know what to do." Noah exhaled slowly, a mix of awe and apprehension flickering across his face. He took a moment, studying her, the snowflakes still falling gently around them, the town square a glittering wonderland. "That's incredible," he said finally, his voice soft. But are you happy, Lily? Really? Her eyes met his, shimmering with emotion. The magic of the night, the kiss, the warmth, the love, they all collided with the reality of ambition, opportunity, and choice. Her heart felt like it had been stretched across two worlds, one of love and home, and one of career and dreams. Noah's hand tightened around hers. "Whatever happens," he murmured, "you won't face it alone. We'll figure this out, together." For a long moment they stood in silence. The world paused around them, snow drifting in lazy swirls, hearts racing, decisions looming. But somehow, in that suspended, fragile instant, they were certain of one truth. Whatever the future held, they had this moment. And that was everything. Chapter 19. The snow fell like delicate glass dust across Winterhaven Square, settling softly over rooftops, cobblestones, and lampposts. Lantern light flickered, throwing gold across the frozen surfaces, each glow catching the snowflakes in a tiny, endless sparkle. The town seemed suspended in a gentle hush, as though holding its breath for this one night, this one moment. In a secluded corner of the square, Lily and Noah stood close, the warmth of each other battling against the sharp chill of December. The kiss they had shared moments ago still lingered between them, echoing in every touch and glance. Her hand brushed against his sleeve instinctively, feeling the small vibrations of his warmth beneath her fingers. Every breath they drew was heavy with unspoken emotion. For a few perfect seconds, the world had narrowed to them, two souls in the heart of a winter wonderland, hearts pounding in tandem, the world around them melting into a blur of white and amber. But the quiet shattered with a sudden, sharp buzz, her phone vibrating in her pocket, urgent, insistent, almost accusatory. Lily's chest tightened as she drew it out. The screen glowed with missed calls. Rachel, her boss, her colleagues, each one a reminder of a life she had fought to balance and often escape. Her fingers trembled slightly as she swiped to unlock, and she felt the tug of responsibility weigh down like the snow-laden branches above them. Noah's eyes softened but carried a quiet concern. "Lily, is everything all right?" His voice was gentle, almost melodic, his thumb brushing over hers, anchoring her in the present. "It's just work," she murmured, though the tightness in her chest betrayed the lie. He studied her, searching, unwavering. "You've got a lot of missed calls. From Rachel?" Her throat tightened, a lump forming as she nodded, unable to meet his gaze. I wasn't ready to deal with it yet," she admitted, voice trembling like the flicker of the lanterns around them. Noah squeezed her hand, warm and steady. "It's okay. Whatever you decide, I'm here. I'll be here." Her heart ached, torn between the warmth of his presence and the pull of the city, the life she had built, the ambitions she had chased, the future she imagined waiting beyond Winterhaven's snow-blanketed streets. I don't know what to do," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "If I stay, I could miss opportunities. If I leave, I might lose everything here." Noah's thumb brushed over her knuckles, grounding her trembling hands. "I won't lie, it hurts. I want you to stay. I love having you here. But I can't chain you to a place. You have to follow your path, even if it's hard for me to watch." Snow swirled around them like living reflections of her turmoil, bitter and cold. Two worlds pulled at her at once, her heart tethered to him, her mind pulled to the city. And yet, his gaze, his touch, made her want to root herself in the square, in the warmth they shared, just a little longer. Her eyes flicked again to the phone, buzzing relentlessly. One last call remained, urgent and unwavering. I need to answer this," she whispered. Noah nodded, jaw tight but steady. "Go ahead, I'll wait here." She exhaled slowly, brushing her fingers once more across his, before stepping onto the side street that led to the bakery. Each crunch of snow under her boots echoed in the quiet night, a stark contrast to the soft warmth she left behind. Noah lingered in the square, shadowed by worry. He watched her retreating figure, the distance stretching with every step. He wanted to call after her, to pull her back into his arms, but restraint held him, painful and necessary. Instead, he turned toward Grandma Hazel's home, seeking the comforting glow of familiarity, the grounding presence of someone who had loved her long before he had. Inside, Hazel noticed him immediately, the furrow in his brow, the tension in his shoulders, the slight tremor that spoke louder than words. "Something's wrong," she said softly, setting aside the steaming cup of cocoa she had been pouring. He shook his head, though his voice betrayed him. She might be leaving, for the city, tonight." Hazel's hands paused, hovering over the table before falling slowly. "Oh, Noah, we miss her, but she's family. She will make her own choices. We have to let her find her path, even if it breaks our hearts for a moment." Noah leaned against the doorway, hand through his hair, eyes closing briefly. The thought of her drifting away made his chest ache. Every laugh, every fleeting glance, every touch now felt infinitely precious. The warmth they had reclaimed this Christmas Eve, even briefly, seemed fragile as glass. Outside, the clock in the square began to chime, each strike echoing across the rooftops. 1, 2, 3, 12. The final chime heralded the arrival of Christmas. Noah forced a smile at the townsfolk gathering nearby. "Merry Christmas, everyone!" His voice carried cheer, but inside it rang hollow. Lily was still gone. Hazel approached quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "She knows her way around, Noah. This is still her home. She'll find her path, and she'll come back. Trust her. Trust the bond you share." Noah nodded, though unease lingered. Every shadow, every drifting snowflake seemed to echo the possibility of her absence. Hours passed, stretched thin with anticipation. Then, a soft knock at the door. Noah's heart leapt violently. Hazel moved aside, smiling quietly, allowing the way to clear. Lily stepped inside, snow clinging to her coat, her hair dusted in tiny crystals that glittered in the warm lamplight. She paused, weighing the words in her heart before shutting the door behind her. The room fell into stillness. Every breath was held, every eye fixed on her. The anticipation was almost suffocating, a heavy quiet pressing down like snow on the rooftops. Noah's hand twitched, aching to reach for her, but he remained rooted, heart hammering, desperate for her words, desperate for her decision. Lily's gaze swept across the room slowly, meeting Hazel's knowing smile, lingering on Noah's tense expression. Her lips parted slightly, yet not a single word emerged. Every soul in the room felt the weight of the moment. Fear, hope, love, anticipation, all suspended in a fragile, fragile silence. Outside, snowflakes continued their slow descent, the world holding its breath, waiting with them for her next words. And then, silence. And then, Chapter 20, the silence in the room stretched for what felt like an eternity, every eye fixed on Lily, every heartbeat echoing in that suspended moment. Then, slowly, deliberately, she lifted her gaze, meeting Noah's anxious eyes and the warm, expectant looks of Grandma Hazel. "I'm not going anywhere," she announced, her voice calm but resolute. Relief rippled through the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Noah felt as if he could float, as if the weight of the world had lifted from his chest. He laughed, almost unintentionally, and pulled her into a brief, tight hug, inhaling the scent of snow and peppermint that clung to her coat. But the relief was tempered by a quiet undercurrent of sadness. The choice she had made wasn't without sacrifice. Everyone, including Noah, felt the shadow of what she was leaving behind. The life she had been building, the career, the friends, the pulse of the city she had known so well. Noah, ever the voice of curiosity and concern, stepped forward. "Wait, what about your job, your life there? Everything you've worked for?" His tone was edged with worry, though his eyes burned with love and hope. Lily smiled, that radiant, mischievous, certain smile that made the air in the room feel lighter. "I don't have to leave it behind," she said, voice steady and bright. "It will follow me." Noah frowned slightly, confusion mixed with intrigue. "Follow you? How?" Before she explained, she brought up her phone and showed it to Noah. On it, her coworker's message shone through, brimming with excitement. Lily! We remembered you're in Winterhaven. The meeting today was about expansion, and they want you to head the new project here. We think you're the perfect person to lead this branch. The words hit Noah like sunlight piercing winter clouds. Lily's eyes widened, and then a solution crystallized in her mind, a way to have both worlds, to honor her roots without sacrificing her dreams. Her lips curved into a smile, radiant and full of hope. She turned back to Noah and everyone in the room. "See? I don't have to lose everything," she said. The tension dissolved. The festival outside seemed to respond in kind. Music swelled, lights sparkled with renewed brilliance, and the laughter of children rang through the crisp winter air. The town itself seemed to breathe in celebration, embracing the miracle that had unfolded within the small, snow-dusted house. Noah pressed a gentle kiss to Lily's temple, lingering as if trying to imprint the moment forever. "Sometimes," he murmured, voice soft, "the best places aren't on a map, they're in the heart." Lily rested her head against his shoulder, closing her eyes and feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat, a rhythm perfectly in tune with her own. Around them, the festival roared in joy, lights twinkling, music swelling, townsfolk cheering, and carolers' voices lifting high into the snowy sky. Every cheer, every smile, every shimmering reflection on the frost felt like a blessing on the night. Grandma Hazel appeared, a steaming cup of cocoa in hand, and smiled knowingly. "Looks like some miracles really do happen," she said softly, her eyes twinkling behind her glasses. Noah wrapped an arm around Lily, holding her close, letting the warmth between them echo the warmth of the room. The snow drifted lazily past the windows, reflecting the golden glow of lanterns, while outside, Winterhaven itself seemed alive with magic, laughter, and love. For Lily, the world had shifted. The city, the career, the distant dreams, they no longer felt like sacrifices, but like extensions of her choices, flowing naturally into the life she loved and the people who made it home. Every laugh she had missed, every moment spent away, every quiet snowfall, it all led to this. She looked up at Noah, the flickering lights casting gentle shadows across his face. Her heart soared, full and certain. This is where I belong," she whispered, almost to herself, almost to the room, but loud enough for him to hear. And in that perfect, timeless moment, with snowflakes drifting softly, lanterns glowing, and Winterhaven singing with celebration, Lily understood the truth of Christmas, of home, and of love. Miracles waited patiently, quietly, in the hearts of those who believed. This was her Christmas miracle. The snowflake rests softly now, snow swirling around it as Winterhaven glows beneath the twinkling lights. Inside the homes, laughter and warmth fill the rooms. Children hang stockings, couples share quiet glances, and the scent of fresh cookies drifts through the air. The snowflake sparkles in the streetlight, reflecting all the stories, all the memories, and all the love that fills this town. For a moment, everything feels suspended in magic, the kind that only Christmas can bring. Some stories, some miracles, return every year. Some hearts, once lost, find their way home again. And as you watch the snow drift and the lights shimmer, remember, the magic isn't just in Winterhaven, it's in the moments we cherish, the love we hold. So hold it close, listen carefully, and let your heart believe, because tonight miracles are real, and love has found its way home. Please, like, share, and subscribe for more. Feel free to check out other stories from the library. Thank you for listening. See you next time.